Welcome, everybody. These are very interesting moments and times with this new activation that a spiritual spring is coming. We are exploring the archetypal meanings through Venus star point. Here today, I have the honor to share and talk a little bit about this with Arielle Guttman, and we'll explore both of us. So welcome here.
Hi, Gemma. Nice to be here. Nice to be with you. Nice to have you here.
Thank you.
So we're going to talk about the Venus star point. It's coming up in about a week. It's an Aries star point. Venus goes retrograde every 1.6 years, and Venus goes retrograde in Aries every 8 years. So this is a big thing for Venus retrograde in Aries right now. And you have to think back to the spring of 2017 to link back to what you were doing then and what was happening in the world then, and how the events of that time connect to the events of this time. And so we're going to kind of cycle through. I know you have some slides to show. One of the things people ask me a lot about Venus retrograde is, what do I do during Venus retrograde? What does it mean, and how do I best use it? And we have to remind ourselves that Venus is connected to the archetype of beauty, and it's connected to the archetype of love. So we do things that we love to do. We take care of ourselves. In Aries, it's about self-care, but it also has a lot to do with artists and art. And why I love talking with you about the Venus star point is because you create such beautiful art that has been inspired by your journey with Venus. And so I'm eager to see what you have tapped into with the sort of spirit of Venus, because I think there is a spirit of Venus that helps artists and musicians and designers and photographers and people that work that are in nature. It has a lot to do with organic life and creativity and nature and the harmony of nature and the beauty of nature. And of course, we're all a different star point where we can go through that. There's 5 points of the star on the star of Venus. And so tell us, what's your star point?
Yes, I prepared some slides. Let me show you. Hi, and then I will answer your questions. My name is Gemma. The title of today is The Inner Power, Love in Action from Inside, as you said, the self-care. Through my childhood, I attended art, dance, and music classes. My mother is a music teacher, and we just stimulated my creativity and approach to life from a multiple expressive perspective. I also live in different countries like Buenos Aires, then Singapore, then Lincoln, doing my master. I will show you a little bit because it's very important today. And that fact that enrich my perception of reality. So first, I want to express a little bit about that power that is in myself, that my connection with Venus, then how I work with Venus, and going to that next Venus star point. My connection with that Taurus, Venus in Taurus, very sensitive and connected with all that textures and sensorial and the arts as well. Even though I have a very important connection with Mercury as well, and this square give me very busy during a lot of time to try to open possibilities with a Gemini and then make it practice. Also, you can see that North, and Saturn is very important for me to connect. That is my path about incarnation, my spiritual path. And we can see that Venus is conjunct to Mars and Chiron. I have some difficulties in that part as well. Sun in 12th house, might heaven in Pisces, South North in Pisces, Sun, Mercury opposed Neptune. So it very tricky in a way, very deep. All that I feel in my body, right? Like the connection and the somatic experience. And also there is Juno, that sacred place, and I need to go there to relate deeper. More about Venus is a morning star that warrior. I feel it inside myself. There is a trine with Venus, with Moon in Virgo, and also I said with Saturn, that difficulty to being in Earth, even though it's very, very, very important for me to concrete. And that is very interesting. You'll see during the
Yeah.
presentation about that Venus opposition to Uranus. There we'll see that is
Yeah.
the star point. I will show you it in a bit. What is that
Well,
thing?
I've always connected the Venus morning star or Venus Pandemos with Taurus, because in astrology, Venus rules two different signs. And so there's Venus Pandemos, the earthy goddess, and then there's Venus Urania, the sky goddess, the celestial goddess. And so you do have Venus as a morning star, and so it is earthy, it is more earthy. And I know that you feel when you say, trying to get your feet on the ground here with Saturn and Virgo, and the North Node there and the Moon there, but you do. I think with the South Node in Pisces is your feeling of floating, the Piscean, the spirit is alive. I love it that you and I both have Saturn and Virgo.
Mm,
Uh, and so you were born one cycle of Saturn after me.
mhm,
Um, yeah, that was my Saturn return when you were born. Was that I also have Saturn in the first decan of Virgo,
mhm.
and it really puts you to the test of work. Dedication to my work is how it's really played out for me. Dedication to um, all the things that I teach. Saturn is a teacher too. But yeah, you have it in a very lovely aspect to Mars and Venus. So tell us.
When you add that Uranus, I always felt the need of freedom and going deep and all that material. Very easy for me. As 7 years, I was painting and working with materials and having my degree part in music as well. So I need more. I need to understand. And then when astrology come to my life, try to go to that transformation. Before I thought it was more that Sun Mercury trine Pluto with fortune, that I need to change things when it's not nourishing me. It's very easy for me to change it past a new level as a phoenix in a way. So next step, I want to connect a little bit more with my creative practice, because a creative soul journey in a way, and I'm working now more as astrologer, author, letterer, artist, designer, and practitioner of core shamanism. I'm very connected with the nature, as you said, with the tarots and with the spirit and with the plants and with all that part. And I like to explore that multidisciplinary transformative experience. I want to connect this part with costume design. I went to UK to course that, and with a stage of life that is, I explore that A Midsummer Night's Dream, that Shakespeare play, and
Yes, I love it. Very Venusian kind
that's
of
a
play.
very Venusian. No? I have Jupiter in Leo as well, that stage and
Yeah.
scenario. By connecting with the symbolic language of the cosmos, I understand that astrology would be a fundamental to cultivating my life. Then the creative universe began to intertwine with myself and my discovery. And while continuing my studies and working as a fashion designer and cool hunter as well, and teacher and costume designer, it was going more as a stylist of film and theater. And all the characters and avatars and masks took on a new archetypal level for me, and that astrological dimension that continues to maturing today in myself. So this play, A Midsummer Night's Dream, my interpretation is order and chaos, and I was playing here with the meaning, with that semiotic as well. And it was an adaptation of that is important because we interpret reality in our current times. And this Shakespeare play was written around 1593 as a comedy about love, authority, male dominance, and losing one identity. It's like what's happening, right now. And Shakespeare was the magician in a way, or the ability to express the range of human emotions. And that happened between two stages, Athens city and the woods. So very interesting, all that meaning. And the interpretation that I did, it was as a present play, a futuristic dystopia focused on the contemporary subject of increasing difference that is happening now between social classes as a return of Middle Ages. It represents as inflexible opposition between groups, between these parts of psyche. And the moral that is bringing the meaning here now, the moral is to realize of the importance to find balance between the two aspects, order and chaos, conscious and unconscious, and integrate them. Both are important and necessary, as we know. So that it was one of the images of Ascages about order. I put that Saturn column like a prison in a way, all that things. And because I was studying astrology in that way, that was in 2012 in UK, yes. And in the chaos, all that more dream and magic and that unconscious that if I remember correctly, Jung said, give the unconscious the same possibilities to exist that conscious, in a way, because it nourish ourselves. And that was the characters, some of them. I did that play is very huge, but I wanted to show it because it's that work with me, with hands, creating the concept and creating and putting all together. And the four elements, so for me, are very important. This part, it will be that fieries, that magic, integrating the air, the mind, and the fire in ourselves, and the earth that is Titania, and the waters as well. And with the flexible structures, because if not, the other part, it was like a rigid oppression inside of ourselves. So in me, in art and with Venus, I like to express and explore this concept through matter or playing in these pairs. And now we are with the same yin yang pair with the new nodal axis that is very important, is pointing that vertex into and through Pisces and connecting Virgo, serving bigger phases of ourselves and inner connections. This is as well that Saturn, when we connect with that shadow or strong parts that can make us or create us pain, we connect with love. Integrating that structure in ourselves is very important and help us to ground. And I was studying astrology, but then in 2016 in Astrology Hub, I saw you a presentation about Venus, and I bought this book, Venus Star Point, yours, and in the first page is when his love he doth spy, let her shine as gloriously as Venus of the sky. And it was about a
I
midsummer
always love that line. I've always loved that line. I just
amazing.
you know, because Venus does shine so gloriously, and the last couple of months it's been amazing in the night
Amazing,
sky.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then I open, I amplify and expand all that meaning that I had before, Venus in Taurus, morning star with Uranus, and then I saw the Venus star point that is direct there in Scorpio, close to Uranus. And I said, okay, I'm not an obsessed person. I can create freedom, but I like to go to the roots. I'm very motivated to investigate and analyze, and that of course is Virgo as well, but it's like a scorpionic thing in myself. But it's like not only that Pluto fortune that is ruled by Venus as well. All that need, and in my life, I will not explain today, but a lot of periods and changing, a very Persephone also in my teenager, exploring taboos and all the analysis and with animals and that shamanic experience. It's very, very important that brings to me. And also as a creation in 2020, I began my project. Before I was teaching in another school, but in that time, the Venus is in Aquarius and the Venus is an evening star. So I explore this other part and synastry myself. And the Venus star point is in Leo. So it's very interesting, that journey, and Mars is in Scorpio in midheaven. Very clear for me, touching that Venus natal star point in Scorpio. So that is that inner relation. I have a lot of layers in that part. And now I will explain how I work with Venus. You can see that need to transform and the journey of embodiment and soul recovery. That is a technique in shamanic, that soul recovering, connecting with parts that we miss. And Venus help us to connect. And between order and chaos, but an order that we live maybe is just a small one. We should, or we could, open and expand. And with this next cycle, with Venus, a star point in Aries and Capricorn, we'll see in a minute, is like inviting us in a way. Is how you recreate yourself from your inner journey, going to the soul. So I explore Venus in this path, that first in a chart, that personal planet, morning star, evening star, understanding that synodic cycle, Venus, a star point, very, very, very important. And then in the transit, what's happening now with part of cycle R, and what is for you in this present. We can check, and well, we show you that phases that help us to connect from Earth to the sky. It's like not is a 2D dimension in a flat paper, is a real incarnated experience. And through that, I explore that in a journey, going through different levels. I explain it as well. And that became a transformation that is forming yourself and merging and rebirth as well in continuous aspects. So the transit, the Venus star point, we know that synodic cycle with the sun, that conscious, that vertex, and the Earth and Venus. And the next one is this in Aries, 23rd March, inferior conjunction, means that Venus, it will be retrograding. Here it is. Here we have the star, the inferior conjunction, and then we can see this one as well, the superior, and all that direction that is gorgeous. You can explain us later because you are the main specialist and you know that amazingly well. And with that transit and that phases that I mentioned, this is a very interesting website, AstroSeek, that you have all this information easier. So that phases of the synodic, we can observe the sky, and that astronomical data, it means the speed, that distance, that light that you said, Arielle, that last 2 months, we saw that in the evening, that Venus shining. So,
and you can see maximum brightness was, you have
no,
to go
because that
back.
is the beginning. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
before.
But it was January and February were maximum elongation and maximum brightness of Venus in that last phase before she's starting to set now. She's going to set on March 19th in a few days, and then we won't see her at all in the evening. In fact, she's getting so low now, I almost can't. I really have to get out there quickly and make sure there's no clouds in the way to see her. But she's given us a beautiful show so far. But now she's in her alchemical process of getting ready to change, because that's what the retrograde is. It's an alchemical process of change.
Totally, that alchemical transmutation. So we'll see that 9 months period going through the different phases and stages, and we can check that light. And then we'll have the ruler, and they'll make emphasis to that. This new star point, Venus in that second degree, ruled by Mars trine with Saturn, the next ruler in water, is like flowing that action, making natural, making gentle in a way as well. From inner, we are being working with Mars retrograde, with our personal biography, taking care of our emotions, because that is the root that nourish our actions. So having that grounding in our actions, more assertiveness, being so this Mars, each change of sign, then we'll have the opposition with Pluto, then we'll go to Virgo and doing all that work through the nodes and keep working is very important because it's guiding all the Venus star during that period until it changed to Capricorn, and it would be very important. Today I will not explain, but it's all this star. So for embodying, I explore that inner journey because I need to go inner. And this is the image is a detail of Kuduru, and is showing a version of the ancient Mesopotamian 8-pointed star, symbol of the goddess Ishtar Inanna, representing the planet Venus as the morning or evening star. And we see in the story and the myth that portals relate to the chakras. As you know, chakras are the energy centers located in the human body. These points condense biological and psychological aspects. So can reflect tendencies and inertias in the way we relate, and they integrate our being, acting as bridges between the mundane and physical with the ethereal and subtle. So we can apply the astrological keys and archetypal concepts in each portal is how I work in this part. But explain a little bit how we find that portals is astrology as well, astronomy. Venus-Man conjunction is a key to that portal chakra. So we see during that process of descending is a balsamic phase of the lunation that make that conjunction. And we can see and check each part. Until then, we have 40 days, the transmutation, that void, and then we ascend in a waxing phase with new light that is increasingly. So now is that the balsamic, it will be in April, there is a conjunction, and also we can keep checking all the rulers. In this one is a 27 of Pisces. Neptune, it will be already in Aries, so it's opening that new part and releasing that energy. And the energy flows, see, in that descent from Mano Dea Judith. A very interesting book as well. We are descending in this Aries Venus star point, connecting with these portals if we want. For me, is that incarnation. I need tools, I need ways to work with. And descending is the cure manifestation, pull of the soul, I've moved toward individuality. It's like the process of individuation that Mars and Saturn go into the earth. And then the ascendant is the current liberation pull of mind and spirit, move toward freedom, expansion, abstraction, universality. As you said, that Venus evening star, the lover, going and shining. So I work in each of these steps that are portals, that are energy and expanding and harmonizing Venusian as well, or with all the different levels and elements. So, for example, the crown chakra, what do I need to release to purify and manifest? We are going to the manifestation, my spiritual connection, adding the meaning of the moon, the archetypes, or it's like deep astrology, deep Venus, and my Venus star point in Scorpio. So we can check, we keep moving, oscillating. So sometimes that principles of the imbalance can be due a deficiency or due to excess, or sometimes some parts are more imbalanced. So if we can identify, we can take care, we can understand what's happening, and we can try, at least if you need, to harmonize our being. So now this Venus star point in Aries, Mars, it condenses for me. It's Aries, but it's that Mars. And I have here these two little that I have in conjunct as well in my natal chart. But that connection, condensing anima y animus, not just projecting to outside, even inside, that Jungian work, and is a new way to act. Aries, the first sign. We have all this year giving us a birth as well, and gathering of love and spirit, and from the heart that heroes, that erotize us, and explore that sacred feminine and divine masculine in us. So that archetypes. We have a lot of list of meanings from history, but what's happening now? How we can bring it to this present moment and interpret and recreate, and all the arts and imagination help us to explore new ways and new possibilities. So from my arts is already fine. Give new meaning to archetypes, could be, and ways to express and manifest in each dance, in each conjunction. Some different archetypes are more notorious, so we can think how I explore this part of me, how I act this part of myself. So we are going down, down, and in morning setting, that dark part is important to learn how to be in that silence or quiet, and it's that I don't have to be acting all time. I can be observing, and it's what's going on. That is Venus Scorpio as well, Venus star point. So because we are preparing for that naked encounter of ourselves, and that sacred practices help us with presence and time, quality time, and the space that we generate, individual and share, and astrology and creative practice can help us to refine that Mars serving, not defending and choking or blocking, if not serving that other that I can see in front of myself, that taking care with others, that which is my cause, what I want to protect with my willpower, my unique energy, and being updating myself in a way is that far. So in January 6, 2026, it will be the superior conjunction and Capricorn until the 14th of February, that Saturn will come to Aries. So that it will be the second period of this Aries Capricorn from Venus, from what we love and what we need and what we want to take care and where we want to bring beauty and how we connect and express our energy and all that thing that is huge, and going to that hug and ourselves, being compassionate as well with our process, understand and move then that energy as well. Transcendence is the path of liberation. Immanence is the path of manifestation. To embrace them both is to see the divine within, and without was an inseparable unity. And not there, Judith. And we need to go to that silence or dark places to see our own light that is there, shining with that power and that potential that we have and that beauty that we can share. So, Venus in Aries, inner power, love in action, let's do it. And that's all for now.
Love it. Love it. Beautiful. Wow.
Thank you.
Beautiful. I can tell what an incredible artist you are, because that presentation is probably one of the most beautiful, like instructional Venus material presentations I've ever seen. And I've been working with the Venus star for a long time now, and I've seen a lot of presentations, and this is just simply elegant. Love
Thank
it.
you. That Venus.
So love in action. That's your summary for this period, Venus and Aries.
Mm.
I was thinking while you were speaking of lots of things. I know you were going through them fast in the to keep to our time. But
Yes, sorry.
no, but there
I will
was
need
so
1 hour to
much in
express
each
properly
one.
all
It could have
that.
gone, each one could have been, I was just getting so many activating points in my mind while you were speaking. And I was thinking this Aries start point, a lot of words that begin with A describe this period. Ignite your passion through art, activism, adventure, alchemy, and action.
Wow, beautiful.
Eight. Yeah. So the other thing I wanted to say, I wanted to comment on when you were there, but I didn't want to interrupt the flow. But when you were showing your chart with the 5 star points on it, your main star point, or what we call the head point, is Scorpio, but it's conjunct your natal Uranus.
Mm.
And one of the arms of your star is Virgo, and it's on your natal Saturn. And how you were showing this series of slides about order and chaos. And I think of Saturn. I mean, Saturn is obviously order. You had a slide for that. And the chaos is very Uranian. It's like that slide you showed for chaos is so Uranian, because it's like, there's no way to contain it. It's just everywhere. It's the sky, you can't contain it. And so 2 of your major points of your 5-pointed star have to do with order and chaos. And so the fact that you're working with them through your life in this particular way is a stunning example of how we activate the points in our own Venus star. Really.
Yeah. And it's very important as well, all you work about teams and adding and activating the other points, the star
Yeah.
and the foot on the other hand, and creating that groups that help us to expand and refine and cultivate our inner talents in a way. But yes, that chaos comes from Uranus, and as well that Pisces for me, that South Node in Pisces, that it's all there and I have to put order. No, it's expanding and connecting with that twist. For me, that Uranus on my thing is all that fixed Earth, Taurus, and sign with a twist. I like change. I like the new, the very pure tradition in arts, in culture, in techniques as well, and with the twist, in the current zeitgeist, in the moment that I'm living now, not being 100 years before. No, it's now I'm here in the 21st century. What's happening now?
That's in your fifth house, isn't it? The Scorpio star point. Yeah, and
Yeah.
Uranus. So of course you would put it into your creative process, definitely. Yeah, lovely,
Hmm.
perfect, beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
thank you. And would you like to share about Aries?
Yeah, I have a few slides I can share. So I already called this period what we're in right now the igniter of inner passion and the year of passionate activism. I named that 2017 also the year of passionate activism because it was also 8 years ago. It was the last Aries retrograde Venus star point. So it did. And I don't know if you remember, but at that time, at least in the United States, Trump had just gotten elected, had just been inaugurated in 2017. And on inauguration day, like millions of women across the country and really around the world were wearing pussy hats, these pink little, do you remember that? These little
Yes.
pink pussy hats that people were making and wearing. I had one. I was out there with all these other women, and it was a sign of, protest against the words that he had said and that the laws he was wanting to enact against women basically. So I thought it was really interesting that this is Venus, Venus being the feminine, but she's in a sign called Mars, ruled by Mars. And Mars is, of course, our archetypal masculine. And I do want to say, that the gender there's a lot more gender fluidity now than when these archetypes were first imagined. But when they were first imagined, Venus was very much about the feminine and Mars was very much about the masculine. So I still kind of hold to that tradition because that's the precedent, that's the historic. But within each of us, we can have different levels of Mars and Venus acting. So no matter what gender we were born with. So if we are a woman born into a female body, but we have a lot more Mars, we are going to act more like a masculine entity and are what's traditionally considered that. And same is true of born in a male body, but a lot of Venusian energy, you might actually be feeling more feminine. So, and that's existed throughout history. We are the product of a male and a female union, right? So
Yes.
we have those two parts inside of us, and we are working, and also we live on a planet, Earth, that is sitting between Mars on one side and Venus on the other side. And so we have this male duality, female duality that is really, when you think about the Earth spinning around, sometimes Mars is closer to the Earth, sometimes Venus is closer to the Earth. And so you've got this dynamic always working in our lives on our planet about the male female concepts and how it's playing out. So, yeah, those are some thoughts to keep in mind.
Yes,
Um,
very important.
So the cycle of Venus is really beautiful. It's harmonious. It involves the golden mean, reflecting what she has always come down to us is this is kind of a valid interpretation of the historical um, way Venus has always been interpreted as her beauty and art and all of that. Um, Artists, designers, creators of beauty, lovers all connect passionately to the star of Venus. The star involves a relationship between the sun, Earth, and Venus. It's not like your natal Venus. People ask me, what's the difference between your natal Venus and your Venus star point? Natal Venus is where Venus was just traveling, like let's say this is the ecliptic or the circle of the signs, the zodiac, and the sun's always in the middle. What sign did Venus or position did Venus happen to occupy on the day of your birth? Well, it just was right here, okay, relative to nothing else in particular, really, just acting on her own. But the Venus star point is the cazimi before birth, where the sun, Venus, and the earth are all in alignment. And so the light of the sun, the love of Venus, and the beauty of Venus as well, but the cosmic heart connection is woven inside of you, coming to planet Earth, coming to your embryonic development and your cellular development inside the womb, and how it inspires you to go forward in life.
Mm-hmm.
All of these things, what do they all have in common? Well, they all have to do with the Venus orbit. Now, I've done many videos on all of these subjects, all these images you see here. You can find these videos at my YouTube channel, which is the Venus Star Point official channel. There's also material available at my website and in my books and all of that. So I won't go into all of this now, but just keep this in mind. This is the flow of Venus, its fiveness. In astrology, we're used to thinking of four, the square, the opposition, the conjunction. It's a harmonic, it's a fourth harmonic, and it's very Saturnian. And it's really kind of in a box. It actually produces the order in our world, what you were talking about before, Saturn in order. The fifth harmonic, and it's also very much left brain. The Venus harmonic is the fifth harmonic, the circle divided by five, which is more like a quintile. And it's a talent, but it's really much more about the right brain and the artistic part of the brain, the artistic and the nonlinear hemisphere of the brain. It's the creative side. So it's a different principle to get involved in, to get inside of. But once you are inside of that, you will see that, or if you already are naturally inside of that, flowing with it, you'll gravitate toward this very easily. For instance, like you did. So it's got a great significance in astrology. Of course, we know Venus has always come down to us as love and beauty and things like that, and relationship dynamics. But the Venus star point can help you understand so much about yourself, so much about what really motivates you in life and in relationship, in life and in love, and in all the choices you make about what really makes your heart happy. So, as I said before, every 1.6 years Venus turns retrograde, and every 8 years it turns retrograde in the same sign. And this is the year that it turns retrograde in Aries. Now, this is kind of an interesting table to look at and to consider, that because we're in the middle of all of this right now. The world point, zero Aries, is considered the world point, for one thing. And all four cardinal signs are considered the world point. They're actually the beginning of each season. And there are other points too that are world points, but I think Aries is probably the most important one. On the zero Aries. Every year, ancient astrologers, there's a historical precedent that astrologers from a long, long time ago used to do their reading of the world and what was to come every year on the Aries ingress. And so the moment the sun went into Aries, which it does every year on what we call in the northern hemisphere the spring equinox, but it's the Aries ingress. In the southern hemisphere, it's reversed. We are looking at 3 times in this retrograde cycle that Venus will go over the world point, 3 times that I mean, Mercury will also 3 times go over the world point because it's going very bright now as we speak. Inside this Venus retrograde cycle, we have a solar eclipse, we have a lunar eclipse, and we have a Mercury retrograde. So when Mercury's closest to the sun, to the Earth, and which it is now at retrograde, and Venus is closest to the Earth, which it is now at retrograde, you can't see them. They're hidden from view. So there's an invisibility factor. Can't see Venus, can't see Mercury. What's an eclipse? Can't see the moon, can't see the sun. So we're basically on our own right now. we don't have the planets shining down on us or giving us the guidance that we usually need. And these eclipses, although they last for a very short period of real time, the effect of them lasts for a long time. And so how this eclipse, when the shadow of the Earth is passing over the moon, or the shadow of the moon is passing over the sun, and we're eclipsed, it's like we don't think clearly. We're not thinking very clearly at all. And we're sometimes making decisions out of where did that come from? I just heard a wonderful program on eclipses yesterday, I think, with Bill Meridian. And he says don't make really important decisions a week before the eclipse. Now, we know with Mercury retrograde that we're not supposed to make important decisions then either. Sometimes things come up then and you can't avoid it. Also, certain people are born with Mercury retrograde. And so for them, Mercury retrograde is like normal, and they function fine during those periods. And they think the rest of the world's off, which it is. The Mercury retrograde period, I call it's a collective spaciness. Everybody's kind of, and so it may not be you that's not thinking clearly. You may know exactly what you want to do and how you want to do it. But it's the Mercury retrograde that is allowing everybody else to kind of go off course. And this is really important in driving. You'll see it, and you'll notice it when you're driving, because I think driving around your neighborhood or local area has a lot to do with Mercury, transportation and communication. But you'll see you've got to be extra vigilant while you're driving right now, because people, especially when it's retrograde in Pisces, it's now in Aries, but it'll go back to Pisces. Like Venus is retrograde in Aries now, but it'll go back to Pisces. And so people aren't paying attention. They're not seeing what they're doing, or they're on there looking at their phones while they're trying to drive. In that sense, I would say be careful, be on the lookout for how you're walking. It's easy to fall. I just fell about a month ago. I was walking on the pavement. I thought I was doing just fine. And then suddenly, boom, I'm on the ground. So you just don't know. You have to be very vigilant during these times. This is where you can go. You can find your own Venus star point by finding a table like this called Find Your Venus Star Point. It's a PDF at my website. It shows you where we are right now in the cycle down here, March 25, 22, 2025. 2 degrees of Aries, 39 minutes, retrograde. That's the start point. The Cazimi before it was the last start point, 14 Gemini last June. The one before that was 20 Leo in August of 23. That was a retrograde. The next one is 16 Capricorn, and that will be in 2026. And for some reason, it cut off the Scorpio one, but we will have our very last Scorpio star point in 2026, at the end of 2026. And then all of you Scorpio star points it will still continue, but it will be Libra. So I think a lot of you that are born with a Scorpio star point, your life is going to shift into more Libra ways from the Scorpio. So this is how you look up your 5-pointed star. This is the chart of Beyonce, and this is one way that I show the chart of the person. You can just put the 5-pointed star right over their chart, their 5 points. There's no birth time for her. So basically, I just got solar chart 12 p.m. the day she was born. But the star points are going to be accurate because you don't need a time of birth for the star points. So disregard the houses. We don't know what house anything is in because we don't have a time of birth. But what's interesting is that she is a Aries star point right down here, 17 Aries, but she has 6 planets in Libra opposite her Aries
Mm.
star point. But she's a great example of somebody who's been so dynamic in terms of her own life and her own art and her own creativity and expressing herself, and yet being partnered the whole time to her partner, to her manager, to her co-producer, whatever they are, but they've been working together for a very long time. He is her life partner and her business partner and the father of her children, and Jay-Z. And so she's balancing Libra, all those planets in Libra, but with her Aries star point, which is, and again, we don't know what houses these fall in, so we can't really say where that is, but it's a really good example. What's interesting is Taylor Swift has a very similar thing. She was born 8 years later and the same star cycle as Beyonce, an Aries evening star. And she says she was influenced quite a bit by Beyonce. So they're twin stars of the same, reflecting. And she also has what's interesting an Aries star point. I think it's in her fifth house. And she doesn't have any planets in Libra. However, her boyfriend, her mate of now, they're pretty been steady for pretty long now. Can't remember if that's his first name or his last. It's either
I don't
Travis
know.
Kelsey or Kelsey Travis, one of the two. But he's got like 4 or 5 planets in Libra exactly across from her star point, just like
Mm.
Beyonce has with hers. So you see how the star really attracts in your own life people or relationships. So it works out really well. When you start putting your 5 points of your star on your chart, you'll see, wow, I've got a relationship with that one and that one and that one, and those are all important relationships in my life. Aries star points are definitely pioneers where she's broken through, she in her art, she crosses into new places that other people have not gone before. And Taylor Swift has done the same thing. But this is the spirit of the Aries in art, in music. I'm very connected to music. I know we did that interview a couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
You were asking me what inspires me besides astrology, very much music. It's been really like I've always had a soundtrack in the background of my life
Yes,
because it just keeps me in that place of peace and connection to the cosmos, because music is also a universal language.
exactly.
So this is a sample pentagram for somebody born in the 80s. When you do your star point, you're going to have different signs on the head, and I envision it as that Vitruvian man figure. The your star point goes on the head, then the one before and the one right after goes on your 2 arms, and the one before that and the one after that goes on your 2 legs. This will change. The signs on the 5 points will change, but this is basically the signs that are in play right now. Capricorn and Leo replaced Virgo and Aquarius in the 80s. That was a big changeover. So if you were born in the 80s, interesting and important decade, because there was a transition going on in not just one star sign, but two. And there wouldn't be a big transition like that on the star clock of Venus because it moves so slowly through the signs that the next one wouldn't be until the 2020s, which is happening right now. So we're in the next big changeover period. So I say this for people who want to make their own stars or,
Yes, it's
figure
very
out.
useful.
This is the current position of the stars, signs and degrees of our time. We have 20 Leo, 14 Gemini, 3 Aries, 16 Capricorn, and then the transition between Scorpio and Libra. We already had one Libra star point in 2022 at 29. And then the 2026, 4 years later, will be 0 Scorpio. And then 4 years after that, it will be back in Libra again, but this time to
That is
stay. 27 Libra, and then for the next 100 years, Libra. So yeah, it's a big deal because the star stays in a sign for about 100 years. So yeah, you can see these cultural shifts and where our values shift collectively. What's trendy, what's not, what's important in life, what's not. The next star point after the one coming in 2030 will be the Pisces point coming in 2041.
that will
Uh,
be a huge change as well.
Start building your ark, Pisces, the ocean. Libra is the air and Pisces is the sea. And so we're going to be having a lot of, there's going to be no earth at all on the star out there. Well, there's
Capricorn?
going to be fire. There's just Capricorn. There's going to be Capricorn, but when we get to when we right now we have 2 air and 2 fire, and then we're going to go into, because usually there's 4 elements in astrology and there's a 5-pointed star. So in certain times in history, double air or double earth or double water, one element appears twice. And you can also look at historical cycles with that in mind. This period was a double earth period. For instance, the early part of the 20th century was double earth. And then the middle to late 20th century was double water. And then in the 60s and 70s, we had double air. Since Leo was born in 1987, we've had double fire. So we've been living in a double fire kind of energy in the since the 80s, really. You can feel it.
Yes.
Yeah. So I call Aries star point people of courage, artistic and active, passionate activism, standing up for oneself or others. These are a lot of Aries Venus star points. It's opposite Libra. They can be very vocal about what injustices are happening in life or in the world. This is not fair. This is not right. This is not balanced. We have to do something about it. It's as if the other end is Libra. The shadow of Aries is Libra in the star system, because you'll never have Libra on the star when Aries is on the star, except at the very end of the period when they're changing, like now. The very end of Aries, but the very beginning of Libra. And then as soon as Aries phases out, we'll have the full flowering of Libra. But this is the last couple of star points for Aries. So this is the time to act and speak. I've always connected it very much to Wonder Woman, um, the Aries star, Venus star, because Wonder Woman has a whole history of when Wonder Woman, the character, was created, was an Aries star period. And the movie came out during an Aries star period. The woman that played Wonder Woman is an Aries star point. And there's a couple of other correlations to that too. Like I forget all the sequence of it, but there's a few more in there. And so I always think of this image for Aries. So the other thing is, here in the United States right now, speaking of passionate activism, we have 2 politicians only out of all the politicians in the country. We have 50 senators and I don't know how many hundreds of congressmen. Nobody is saying anything about what's going on right now. They're all their lips are sealed. They're not saying anything. But there are 2 people that are saying something, and they're saying it quite loudly. And they're both Aries star points. And one of them is Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez over here. And the other one is Bernie Sanders over here. They are getting a lot of attention right now for the things that they're saying about. And they're evening stars, so you don't have to be a morning star really to kind of take action. So Bernie's Venus star point is in late Aries because he was born way back in 1941. And so it's connected exactly to his Mars in Aries. So he's always been kind of a vocal, a fighter for justice and rights and for the working class people. He's a Virgo. He's fighting for the working class people, average citizens, not the billionaires. Right now, he's on a campaign to eliminate the oligarchs from American politics because they have pretty much taken over. So this Venus passes over his Eris 3 times because he's got Eris in early Aries up here. But he's been a politician for a very long time. And this whole time since he was born with the Mars in Aries, the Venus star right there activated his Mars from the get-go. And then many decades later passed over his moon. And then now it's passing over his Eris. And so it's this, and this is a timed birth chart. So he does have these planets in the 10th house. So he has been really public about it too. He's not just fighting a private little war in his own personal life or whatever. This is like out there for the collective.
Yes.
Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, this is also a timed chart. Her Aries is down here, but look she's got her moon at 3 Aries, conjunct Pallas Athena, the warrior goddess. So again, Wonder Woman, she's our Wonder Woman right now. And then this Venus star point is actually passing over her chart. She's a warrior goddess, even though she's an evening star. She's got that Aries drive, and it's right there. And then I love this one. This is the new president of Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum. She's a fighter also. She's not an Aries star point. I was hoping she was because she seems like one, but she's an Aquarius star point, and they have a sense of I've many Aquarius star points that I've looked at in my research have that fighting spirit for their people, for the collective. She has her Venus star point at 7 Aquarius, conjunct her South Node in Saturn, opposite her Venus and her North Node. And all of that Aquarius Leo configuration is aligned with the nodes of Neptune. So it's like she's got a vision and her people really believe in her vision and her dream and very strong followers of her and supporters of her. But she's not going to back down. She's standing up for her country right now in the wake of a lot of attacks against Mexico by the US president. So good for her.
Yes.
Go Wonder Woman.
Yes.
So there's so much more we could talk about, but there's a lot of this this is the print book, this is the ebook. There's a lot of the historical patterns, relationship and personal patterns of the Venus star that are spoken about in these 2 books. The main difference is the ebook doesn't have all the charts and graphs and tables. It's just got the meaning behind it. Whereas this book, the print book, which is almost or over 400 pages, has
Look at this.
a lot. Yeah.
All that study.
It's pretty thick. You don't have to sit down and read it all at once.
It's amazing. I love it.
It's a reference book.
I love it.
But every time the star point changes, you can pick it up and read about the star point in question, what the one we're having right now.
Exactly. Is exploring all that content. Look at her. Beauty.
I usually do an Instagram post every Friday because Friday is the day that is governed by Venus. So check that out on Instagram. It's venus.star.point. and a lot of videos I have at my YouTube channel. You can subscribe to my newsletter and of course, contact me if you want a personal reading on your Venus star. But I've been working with it now for 21 years total since I began, and it's still holding my interest very strongly. It keeps proving itself over and over again. So,
And by the way, which
um,
is your Venus star point?
mine is Aries,
Yeah.
evening star,
Yes.
like Bernie and uh, Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez.
Your activism is about?
Especially for women, I would say my passion in activism has been for women since I was small. I realized when I was small that women were treated much differently than men. And I wondered why. Who decided that?
And who accept that in a way, no? It now is with this new Venus star point in Aries is like
Exactly,
emerging.
exactly. So, totally. Yeah, so I've been a passionate activist. If I'm not out marching in the streets, I was when I was younger, marching in the streets, and of course I took part in the with the pussy hat.
Mm-hmm.
2 or 3 years in a row, I did that in the first Trump presidency. Every year on inauguration, they had that. Because if I'm not marching in the streets, I'm basically writing about it or talking about it, or I still, yeah, I'm very active in my feelings about it. And of course, it's not just about women's issues, it's about human rights. It's about
Exactly.
every person's rights, um, for fairness and justice and all of that. But women it was my particular passion for a long time because I lived that one. I am a woman and I've been through as a girl, as a young girl, and then as a teenage girl, and then as a young adult, and how you are treated during at those different stages in life. So I can speak for the other groups. I can speak for um, gay rights. I can speak for trans people. I can speak for people of color, but I'm not one. So I don't have their living experience. I have not embodied that, but I, you know, I support them. I support them I support people to be who they are.
Mhm. Yes.
And it's not everybody's way to go. And I learned this and I realized this a long time ago that your birth chart your chart will usually show you what you are fired up about and what your particular cause might be or not be. You might not be somebody who wants to get out there and fight at all, but you just quietly sit at home and maybe you send donations to those groups from time to time, or maybe you support them in other ways. Maybe you um, talk to your friends about what's going on and you help change somebody else's mind about it. There's many different ways that you can affect change in the world, but I like to think, to wrap that back up, to bring it full circle, I like to think of this Venus retrograde period as an alchemical change. She's going behind the sun. We're not seeing her. She's making that cazimi, kissing the sun, planting a seed for the next 1.6 years and also for the next 8 years in terms of what she will produce, what she will give birth to.
Mm.
And actually, the halfway point is the next cazimi 9 months from now. So always think forward to what seed are you planting now what kind of insemination process is happening now that in 9 months from now, January of 2026, you would like to give birth to. And that's a good way to go through the cycles from one to the next to the next.
Exactly. Grounding all that thing. It's very important. That's
Yeah.
great, Arielle. All your
All
knowledge.
right. So
Yes.
it's been great talking with you. I know we have to run now,
Yes.
but uh, we'll connect again soon. And
I will put
Venus
that.
blessings to you, Venus blessings to you and to all. And we will catch you again next time.
Yes.